So here we are in my backyard. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Jody.
And today we're going to be talking about bats. So somebody, Jody, tell me why we care about bats.
What is the hype all about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these little things that fly around and they get in your hair and they bite your neck, like those vampire bats. And, no,
Don't
I'm
forget
just
rabies.
joking.
Yeah. Oh, rabies, right? The big right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of hype out there about bats, but there's some really good things that bats do, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, and how we can help bats in this research project that Gary is doing. And then Dylan is here to talk a little bit about bat houses and how you can help by building some bat houses and putting them up in your yard as well. So what is all this hype about, Gary?
First of all, bats don't want to get in your hair.
They don't?
No. I mean, look at me. I research bats. They don't want to get in your hair.
Yeah.
If they're trying to get by you, it's because their food is by you somewhat.
Right. Because what do they eat?
Anything from mosquitoes to Luna moths. And like us, bigger things are better. You can eat 500 little ones or one big one.
Right.
Which one are you going to do?
Right. And they can eat in one night, they can eat almost their entire body mass?
They'll eat their whole weight in one night, but not all in one setting. Like us, they have meals.
Yeah.
They come out, they eat, they fill up, they go roost on a tree and digest, and then go back out
Second
and
course.
eat some more,
Yeah.
go roost on a tree and digest, go out some more. They might even go to another spot.
What a life.
Now tell me what, here in the Monadnock region, what kind of bats would we most commonly find?
Boy, I wish you'd asked me that 5 years ago. I would have said little brown bats, but they're probably the least common now. Now it's going to be big brown bats are most common. That's what you're going to find in your house. They like to roost in attics. Then probably the others are going to be hories, reds, northern long ears. Then you're going to get down to small-footed bats, little brown bats. Silver-haired bats are almost impossible to net. We know they're here.
Well, there are a lot more kinds than I thought.
Right. I thought that a bat was a bat.
No, there's 8. The only one I didn't mention, I think, was the tricolored.
Right.
There's 8 species of bats in this area.
Yep.
That's it.
And I have this book here that I purchased, a beginner guide to bats. This is a really excellent place to start. I know that there's a lot of other books out there, but this book here has lots of pictures of the different bats. It tells you where they roost, how many babies they have, how large they are. So if you want more information about bats, it's probably a good idea to either go online or to get some kind of a reference so that you know what you're looking for.
Yeah, and on the wing, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
You're going to see something flittering up there.
Yeah.
After a while, you might identify them. Oh, that's a really big one compared to this others. Maybe that's a hoary bat, or the big brown and little brown, or it's fluttering like a butterfly. It's a tricolored bat.
Now, I don't know about you, but are you wondering what happened to the little browns? Because what happened to the little browns?
Little browns, along with big browns, northern long ears, small footeds, hibernate in caves in the wintertime. And in the caves, they contracted white nose. They come in contact with a white nose fungus. It's a white fungus and got its name white nose.
This is the one that's
it's
been in the
on
paper. It's nationwide, am I
yes.
right? Okay.
Well, it's in 20 states and 4 Canadian provinces that we know of right now. It goes all the way to Oklahoma and to the Atlantic coast.
Okay.
Up into Quebec and Ontario, down to Virginia.
And it's only the little browns that are susceptible?
No, all the cave bats.
They are.
The big difference is that little browns, when they were on the ceiling of the cave, they'd be in these great big masses, hundreds of them at times, where the other ones tend to be either solitary or in small groups.
Okay.
It's like people. I have a cold. If I get into a big group, how many more am I going to infect than if I'm in a small group or by myself?
And do we know where the fungus originated?
The fungus originated in Europe. And the thing with that is the European bat populations are all small, low populations. And they figure that white nose went through them before they started studying bats, because they have no records of studies with large populations.
Okay.
And Vermont numbers I have in my head, before white nose syndrome, little brown bats numbered about 450,000 out of the 650, 700,000 bats that they estimated were in the state of Vermont.
Wow.
Now it's under 10,000.
Oh my gosh.
and that's since 2007.
Now, does it get once? I mean, it's called white nose because you see it on the exterior of their nose, but does it get into their respiratory system? Is that how it kills them?
No, it actually feeds on the skin.
Oh,
and
really?
Just under the skin, and what it happens is it bothers the bat. It gets on the skin of the nose, the skin of the wings, the skin between the tail and the legs, and it starts to feed. It bothers the bats. They wake up, groom it off, and they use up their fat reserves that they need for the winter.
Oh, I see.
So
So,
they-
they're not hibernating like they need to.
So instead of having enough to make it through all the way to April, when these things start flying around your head again,
Right.
and they have things to feed on, they get hungry and thirsty in January and February, or they move closer to the outside of the cave where it's colder, and now they've got to use up more fat reserves to stay warm, and then they fly out hunting for something to eat, and it's too cold, they die.
So is it getting worse or is it getting any better? Can you see anything? And I know you've got some research and you've got some nets behind us that we're going to pull up and show people, you know, what you do too.
I can't say it's getting any better. There's been 5.5 million to 6 million bats died since 2006 when
Yeah.
it was first found in just the Northeast. Everybody's wondering what's going to happen when it gets to the caves down in the Southwest where you've got 10 to 15 million
Millions
bats in
yeah.
a cave.
Right.
Because they don't have to hibernate there, maybe it won't affect them as much, but we don't
Hard
know.
to say.
Right.
Wait and see.
But up here, if they come back, it might take hundreds of years
Right.
for the population to come back, and they might never. Just like the European bats that have such low populations and they're not
Just never
coming
recovered.
back.
And were they native to this area originally?
The
Do you know
fungus,
no, the bats. Were,
The bats?
Were the bats native to this area, or did they come over from Europe as well, or do you know what their origin would be?
the bats are all native here.
Okay.
In the United States, there's 45 species of
Right.
bats, and in New Hampshire, you have 8. In Vermont, there's 1 more. The Indiana
Just
bat
varies,
population.
yeah.
Yeah.
So depending on where you are.
Right. So let's see what your net looks like,
All right.
and
Well,
what
first
the
tell
process
me,
is.
just because I need to know what you're trying to do with this net. You're catching bats, and are you counting to see how the populations are doing? Is that the idea?
Yes.
Okay.
What first thing we're doing is we want to find out what's here.
Okay.
This is Army Corps of Engineer lands. I'm a wildlife biologist with them, and in order to manage the lands for the wildlife,
You
you
need
have to
to
know
know what's
what's
here.
there.
Okay,
and
so
the
you're-
more you know, from bats to deer to dragonflies,
The better you are.
better you can do.
Great. All right, let's put this net up and see how you catch them.
This is pretty interesting, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is.
Yeah. So I wonder how many bats do you find a night, Gary?
Nowadays, I usually say I'm lucky if I get 1 or 2.
Yeah.
My best night this year was 14.
And
My best night overall was 42.
wow. And when was that? In the spring?
No, it was in August. No, late August, back in 2007. All the way to the top,
All the way?
all the way till it touches.
Okay, touched.
That way we won't get caught in this part.
Do you have one of these, Dylan? Do you have one of these in your backyard?
No, I don't.
You go with the bat
Yeah, I go,
houses.
I go
glad
with the
you
bad
don't.
houses.
Yes. Yeah.
You need a permit for one of these.
Oh, good.
I can't even
So
buy these
don't-
without a permit.
Yeah, don't be putting bat nets up in your yard, because that is pretty dangerous too. Because they'll get caught in there, and then they're going to die unless they can
Yeah.
get out. Yeah.
And you're going to see big holes.
Yeah.
That was where a bat was caught. They can chew their way out sometimes.
Yeah.
My thing right now is having it up during the daytime, I might catch a bird. They don't see it well either.
Right.
Yeah.
Bird nets are a little different than bat nets, but not a lot.
Yeah. So, when you catch a bat, what do you do?
First thing I do when I catch bat is we want height in net. Where was it caught? Because if there are bats that we only catch up high, putting them in a single high isn't going to work, and they'll fly over the top. And then have somebody on each pole bring it down to me or to whoever's going to take it out. I'm wearing gloves. I've only been bitten by 6 bats. One of them got me 5 times.
Wow.
Once they bit me the first time, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
I get my shots. I do have my rabies shots. We'll take it out. Sometimes they come out really easily, sometimes they don't. What I'm looking for is they'll go in and they get down in this bag and get tangled. And what I want to look for is a clear belly. And then I get that belly against my fingers and back them out of the net. They went in head first, bring them out tail first. And you have to be very careful around the wings. So bringing them out of the net, it's get the net up over the tail so it's on the back, then get that over the head like taking off a sweater. And then you take the sleeves.
Because their wings are actually fingers, from what I understand.
Their wings are fingers.
They have
the thumb is a claw, and then they have the forefingers, much longer than mine. And there's the first two are kind of together, and the next two are kind of spread and down. I can't spread my hand that way. I'm not
Right.
made that way.
Yeah.
And like your fingers actually go up to here. Their fingers are like yours. There's another bone here, and then there's membrane a leathery membrane in between skin and blood vessels. And that's what they fly with.
So you take them out of the net, and then what do you do from there?
Put them in a little bag, stick it under my belt, walk back to the vehicle where we decide, sometimes I'll decide here what it is, but we make sure of what species it is. Want to get the gender, is it male or female? What reproductive state is it in? If it's a female, we want to know early in the season, is it pregnant? Later in the season, is it lactating, which means it has a pup somewhere? And even later in the season, is it post-lactating, which means it had a pup and there's probably juveniles flying around. We weigh it, and weights can vary. Remember how much they eat. So if you get them first thing in the evening, they haven't eaten, it's going to be like their true weight. You get them a couple hours later, they might be full of stuff, and it might be a few more grams. Now we're talking grams, not ounces,
Right.
not
A
pounds.
mosquito doesn't weigh that much.
No.
Yeah.
And so the bats might only weigh 5 or 6 grams themselves. A big brown bat, male's going to go about 13 grams, female's going to go about 18. And then we measure the right forearm, which is a measurement that all bat biologists do just so that they can share the data with people who want that data. And then we band it. The band is a little, this holds 50 of them. We've used a couple. There's a little band that goes on the forearm,
I just have to get closer and see this.
and it goes on the right forearm if it's a male, and the left forearm if it's a female.
It's really cool.
That
They're
way,
all
in
numbered.
the
Look at
caves,
that.
in the winter, when you do
yeah.
a cave survey, you can look up and say, okay, that one's banded, it's banded on the right, so it's a male bat. You probably can't see the
That's so
number.
neat.
These are New Hampshire bands, and they have 5 letters and 5 numbers. And usually I have to say, what number is it? And
They're tiny. They're
Yes.
tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how far will they fly?
as far as at a night,
Well, or how far out have they been found, the ones that you've banded?
they found one in Connecticut this spring.
Oh, neat.
It had a poor story to it, but there was. When you said rabies earlier, and I mentioned it, everybody's like, they're gonna get rabies from bats. I've handled over 1,000 bats. I'm not foaming at the mouth yet. Actually, I have my shots. But yeah, a bat has about a 0.5% chance of having rabies.
Right. I mean, any animal has a chance of rabies, but it's a lot less for bats than what people think.
Yes.
Right.
And the thing is, if I get a bat, unless I have it tested, I don't know if it has rabies or not, so I have to handle it like it does. If I have a cut on my finger, a little scratch, I have to keep my gloves on all the time. If I don't, I can take one glove off for the smaller bats, which are the only type I've been bitten by. The bigger bats, I know they can bite me. I'm not going to take my gloves off. But it's a very poor chance of getting rabies.
Right.
And that's the problem is everybody who sees bats, the first thing is, it's rabid, it's in the house. And it's like, no, it crawled through the wrong opening and it's trying to find a way
Out.
out
To find a
into the
meal.
world where
Yep.
it can eat.
Right.
And speaking of eating, how do bats catch their food?
They catch it while they're flying, don't they?
They absolutely do.
On the wing.
Do they like
Don't they kind of use
grab
their
it or
tail?
mouth?
They use their tail.
Yeah.
They catch it in
wow.
their tail, and while they're
That's
flying, they use their wingtip to scoop it up into their mouth
That is really
while they're flying.
wow.
Never knew that.
Yeah, most people don't. They figure, you see pictures of bats coming in mouth wide open to grab something. They're echolocating. They're screaming out so that they can get an echo back, and if they open their mouth for that insect, they have no idea what's past there.
Yeah.
They can run into a wall just like
Right.
that.
Yeah. Scoop it. I don't know when I learned they scoop it with their tail, but I remember thinking that's why the tail was not such a free tail.
Now, there are free-tail bats that don't do that.
That's, well, right, those are in Mexico. Are they in Mexico?
There's Mexican
Because the
free-tail
way
bats.
they almost look webbed, the ones that I've seen
Yep.
in New Hampshire. They
Yep.
have more skin to them.
Yep, all the way down from ankle to end of tail and out to the fingers.
So, because it's a scoop.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Gary, most of your research is on numbers of bats and the types of bats that you're finding, correct?
Yeah, so what we're looking for here is what bats live here, and then we net. I've netted here since 2003, and well, 2004 and 5 I didn't have a permit, but netted through, and you can compare years to some extent. We did, I have interns in the summer. We did a couple of studies, one in Vermont, one here, to help the states determine that little brown bats and northern long-eared bats populations had plummeted. And the Vermont one I do remember better, in the same time period pre-white nose, we netted 422 little brown bats. And in the same basic time period net set up after white nose in 2010, netted 1.
Wow.
And in the last 3 years, I've netted 5 little brown bats in both states total.
Wow.
Wow.
And I used
So-
to get 15 to 20 a night.
Ecologically, in terms of the importance of bats, I mean, one of the things I'm interested in finding out about is, you know, is it one of these things where I certainly know that I would like some more bats in my neighborhood? How do I, you know, just because of the insect control? Is that really, I mean, I know that that's anecdotally, people say, oh, I want bats around because they control the mosquitoes in my yard. Is that really a fact that they will help with mosquito control?
They will. It's like anything else. If you have a big piece of something and a little piece of something, you probably take the big piece of something to eat first,
Right.
and save the crumb for later, and then to pick up the crumbs.
Right.
But they'll eat mosquitoes. Another big factor is the food you eat is grown someplace. And there are agricultural pests, insects,
Right.
that bats help control. Without them, no offense meant, but the farmers will have to use more pesticides
Right,
to control those insects that are going to eat the crops.
So ecologically, bats do have a really strong role in insect control.
Oh, very.
Yeah, there's that balance there.
It's
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
balance.
yeah.
So when we start talking about things like Dylan makes these bat houses with his family. So tell us a little bit about these, and then maybe Gary, you can chime in on, you know, why a homeowner would want to encourage bats to live in that area. So let's look at these.
Well, there's a single chamber bat house right here. You could hang them up about 15 feet high, and as you could see, they latch onto this right
Let's turn
here.
it to the camera. Oh, so this, I see. So that's what they would
Yeah.
hold on to.
And then there's a vent right here, so they could breathe.
And who would be attracted to this box, Dylan?
Well, probably about people that don't want to spend too much money
On
on
one
four
of these.
chamber, but
Yeah.
just a nice one chamber bat house.
And what kind of bats would come to this? Would they be all kinds of different bats, or males, females?
Males.
Males?
A little bit,
Okay. Yep.
Now, Gary, why would males be more interested in that?
Actually, it wouldn't. It would be males or females.
It could be
Uh-huh.
either
The
way.
It's a
difference
much
would be-
smaller box, though, than
Yep,
the one
but-
that we're going to show you in just a minute.
What will happen is males usually stay more singly. So
Oh, I see.
male going in there be by itself. Females tend to form maternal colonies.
So if you had this, you might only get one bat. Is that what you're saying?
You might only get one
might
bat,
get a
you might
male.
get 2, you might get 10 or 15 if
Right.
it was females.
Right.
Oh, interesting. So
Yeah.
they group differently.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's that. And would it be big brown bats? Do you think? What kind of bats?
Nowadays, yes.
Probably.
Little brown bats were the species
Primary.
that really went to bat boxes. Big brown bats were there also. Northern long-ears
Mm-hmm.
will sometimes use them. Small-footeds tend to roost in crevice and rocks and
Oh, really?
under big boulders like this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would never think that. I would always think that they would be up high someplace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about this box here because this is the one that I really want to know about. But if somebody has bats in their house, there are things that you can do to encourage the bats to go out.
Without hurting them. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I've seen where you can put like a screen up and the bats can go out, but they can't figure out how to get back in.
Right.
And that might be a way
We
to
actually
help.
did that on my house.
Yep.
We had a lot of bats in my house over the years. We purchased it about 10 years ago, and we had groups of different summers that we'd get quite a few bats in the attic, we think. It's an old house, and so we think sometimes when they couldn't find the right way out, they would come into the house. God, I can't even think. I mean, we've at least had 6 or 7 bats in the
Right.
house over the years. So what we ended up doing was we had someone come who knew a lot about bats, and they put up what they called a bat excluder, and they called it a one-way door.
Right.
And they sealed up the different entrances in the attic, and then they put on this one-way door so that the bats would leave and find a different place to roost.
Right.
and not come back in, but we weren't hurting the bats at all.
Right, and it's a much more natural thing to do, I think.
Yeah, it's better
Well,
than
the-
waking up at night with one circling my head.
And the other thing is you shouldn't do it from mid-May to mid-August.
Because
That's
they
when
need
there
a
may be
place.
pups.
Okay.
So if you leave the pups and the
We
female
didn't
leaves and
let
can't
them.
get back,
Right.
the pups are going to die.
Right.
Yeah.
So do think
I'm
about
glad
what
we
you're
did it in the
doing.
fall.
You know,
That's good.
read
Yes.
it and research a lot
That's
of
the
this
best
stuff
time to do
before
it.
you go ahead and just jump into it. The other thing that I've seen is a lot of bats like to go behind like chimneys and things like that. So this box here will give you a better example of, if you can see inside, there's quite a few little chambers, and that kind of looks like what it would look like in the back of a chimney.
And there's
So-
screening. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but this one is like a fine mesh screen that they would hold on to.
Yeah, so Dylan, tell us a little bit about this box here.
Well, this is a nesting box. This is a 4-chamber nesting box, and it could hold up to 300, 400 bats.
Wow, wow. And so when you put one of these up, it's got the ventilation again. I see a ventilation hole here, and it's got ventilation here, and it's got 3 or 4 chambers down there?
Yeah.
Okay. And so where would you put a box like this? Would you put it just on your house somewhere? Would you put it on a tree, on a pole?
I mean, if it's high up, you could put on a pole, tree,
How high do they like to have their boxes?
about 15 feet.
Yeah, about 15 feet, Gary?
15 feet or up.
Yep.
I wouldn't put them on a tree because of squirrels and such. A pole, what you want is a lot of sunlight. This much today, sun comes up, starts to shine.
So
on
is
it.
that a healthy thing, or is that because they get warmed up, or what would the reason be for the sun?
They like warmth.
Uh-huh.
You turn on the air conditioner when it gets to 75.
Yeah.
They don't. They kind of like 100, 105, 100.
Really?
And they can move around that box a little bit to get the temperature to change.
Yeah.
It's going to be cooler down a little bit near the vents. It's going to be warmer up higher. Paint it black,
Okay.
especially in this part of the country. You want it to be as warm as possible.
Oh, really?
Should you put like a Batman sticker on the front?
I actually use a bat silhouette on mine.
That's an attractor.
Yeah.
It's attractive to people.
Yeah, because then people know what it is.
That's right. So Dylan, what is the company that you guys have in Swansea?
Well, Algonquin Woodworks is we own it. It's just me and my dad. We make some bird houses, bat houses, chairs,
Yeah.
tables.
Yeah, cool. So I was really interested because I went by the other day and I saw that you had bat houses,
Yeah.
and you know that bat houses are something that pretty much anybody, you can try building them, but you can also get them from your company here, and they're not all that expensive. You can just use rough wood. The bats really like rough wood on the inside, so you don't have to have finished wood in order to make these.
Correct.
Right. Now, is there a certain size that they like? I mean, is this a good area for?
That's good. I mean, for maternal colony especially. I even go a little larger. My largest bat house is 8 feet by 8 feet, up on 8-foot stilts.
That's a little heavy.
Wow.
It's a bat. We call it a bat condo.
Yeah.
And it was made for little brown bats, and it
Yeah.
could house 8,000 or 9,000 of them.
Right.
We don't have them anymore.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, this is a good size, I think, for
Yes.
anybody that has them in their backyard. And how many houses would you want in your backyard?
One to start with, see how it gets used, especially if you're going to exclude bats from your house or barn. Put one up and give them an option right there, because they're going to come back to the house and say, oh,
Where do
there's
I live?
something, I can live there.
I see.
Is there some kind of an attractant that you can put inside too? That like any smells or
No.
anything? No.
They're just looking for space. I've seen them underneath plexiglass in our bulletin boards. They're in the wide open, but the sun shines on it and they're warm and they're
They like
sleeping. And they're protected. That's
Yeah,
all.
and they really don't take up that much space.
Yeah,
If
very
if you
little.
look at the bottom of this, Dylan, you can show them
Yep.
what it looks like. You know, look at how tiny that is in there. That's a really small area to roost in.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You're not kidding.
So you've got some screen here, and it feels a little bit rough on the insides here in some places.
And up a little bit, there's little holes so they could go through each
Oh.
one.
oh, so they
right.
can get from chamber
Yeah.
to chamber. Interesting.
So with that one, the outside towards the sun, the chamber is going to be warmer. If they want to get a little cooler, they go into an inside
back.
chamber. The back chamber is vented more and would be even cooler.
Yeah.
So they can
They can
move without having to
thermoregulate
come
that
down
way.
and around. They will go up and down a little bit, and then they'll move and get the temperature they want.
Now you said that in the winter they go to caves. Would they winter over in something like this, or would they find a cave?
The freezing temperature would be too much for them.
Okay.
They're going to a cave. They're probably going to hibernate, depending on the bat species, as to what temperature they like. But usually in, say, low mid 40s.
Yeah.
And that they're not going to go much below that. They're mammals. We have water in our cells. If it freezes, we die.
Right. And that's a pretty normal thing, though, for the bats to go to a cave in the winter and then to come back out and go back to their home, from what I understand.
For those species.
What are the large brown bats? Where do they go for the winter?
The big brown bat
Big brown bats, sorry.
goes to caves.
Okay.
The hoary bat, red bat, and the silver-haired all fly south for the winter. They migrate.
They migrate. Do they migrate mostly at night?
Yes. They're not much of a day flyer.
Well, yeah, I didn't think they were, but then I thought to myself, I can't imagine. Do they migrate in groups?
Because they'll migrate in big groups. They may get together some, and it's like birds. You're going to flocks, but it's going to be at night. Owls are one of their predators. Hawks
that
are a
makes sense,
predator,
yeah.
and they can be seen by more things during the daytime, so they're more susceptible to predators then.
Yeah.
So, Gary, we have just a few more minutes left, and Dylan, if you have anything that you'd like to, let us know about that you would like to let the public know, like where your research is going, how to contact you guys, you might have a website. Why don't you just give us a little bit of that information, and maybe we'll go out and put a bat house up tonight.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so Gary, what do you think? Where's your research headed? How can we help you? What can we do?
One of the big things would be like bats. They're not dangerous. They're cute and fuzzy, and yes, when you hold one and they try to bite you, it's because they're trying to defend themselves. They're not trying to eat me. They're just trying to make me let them go so they can get away. My research is more monitoring trends and seeing how the population is doing in this area, because this is where I work. You can help by putting up bat boxes, giving them habitat. If you don't want them in your house, exclude them at the right time of year and give them an option.
And when would the best time be to put up a bat house?
Anytime.
Okay.
And if you've got it up there, I mean, if I put it up today, it's still good. I might not get a bat in it for 2 or 3 or 4 years. It's not going to be like they're going to move in tomorrow. And it might be, if it's a solitary male, he might come in today and be someplace else tomorrow. And
Just
you never know.
depends, yeah.
So Dylan, you've been making these boxes for how long?
Probably about like a month, not much.
Yep. But you probably did some research, and
Yeah.
and when I was talking with you before, you sound like you're really interested in the bats.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much to learn, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And nature has so much to give you as a gift. And you just have to find some way to, be there for it.
I was going to invite people out tonight, but it won't help.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
But anyway, Gary does have times when he has his bat nets up and he does capture bats, and he bans them and things like that. So you'd have to contact you at, do you have a web address?
Or through the
Army Corps of Engineers.
Yep.
You can get me through Surrey
Find
Mountain
out more
Lake,
about it.
Otter Lake.
Yep.
I do most of my netting here because I have a New Hampshire permit.
Excellent, excellent. So today we've been at Surrey Mountain Dam in my backyard with Dylan and Gary and Jenna and me, Jody. And if you're interested in more information about how to be on the show or have some ideas, you can email us, and our email address is inmybackyardch8@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, or if you have topics that you'd like to have us cover, just
Or
let
if
us
you
know.
want to contact us and buy a bat house from Dylan.
Yep. Awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So
Thanks,
we'll see
everybody.
you again in my backyard.